On the afternoon of June 22nd, 1983, a 15-year-old girl called her older sister from central Rome. The call was short. She said she was running late to her flute lesson. And then she mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that a man had stopped her on the street and offered her a job, handing out flyers for Avon Cosmetics at a fashion show. The pay was 375,000 lire, roughly $250 at the time, for a couple of hours. He had been friendly. He told her to ask her parents and said he would wait for her answer after the lesson. Her sister Federica didn't like it. The money was too much, the kind of money that doesn't come with a real job. She told Emanuela to come home and talk to their parents first. Emanuela said the man would be waiting outside the school at 7:10. Then she hung up, ran into the building late, and climbed the stairs 4 at a time. That was the last time anyone in her family heard her voice. What came after that would stretch across 4 decades. The Vatican, the Italian mafia, a convicted papal assassin, exhumed tombs, anonymous ransom calls, and allegations that reached the highest levels of the Catholic Church. 3 judicial investigations, a Netflix documentary, a parliamentary commission, a pope telling her family she was dead. But after all of that, one thing has never been established. No one has ever identified the man who offered Emanuela Orlandi a job outside her music school. Earlier that afternoon, Emanuela had asked her older brother Pietro for a ride to her lesson. It was scorching out, nearly 38 degrees, and she didn't want to walk. Pietro was 20. He said no. They argued about it. She slammed the door on her way out. He would talk about that moment for the rest of his life. The argument, the door, the fact that if he had just taken her, she might have come home. The Orlandi family was not ordinary. Her father, Ercole, worked inside the Vatican, a lay employee in the prefecture of the Pontifical Household. The family lived within the Vatican walls, in an apartment near the gendarmerie. The children played in the Vatican gardens. Pietro would later say they felt they were living in the safest place in the world. Emanuela's music school, the Scuola di Musica Tommaso Ludovico da Vittoria, sat on Piazza di Sant'Apollinare, a short walk from Piazza Navona. She took a bus part of the way and walked the rest. Somewhere along Corso Rinascimento, near the Italian Senate, the man in the green BMW stopped her. A traffic officer on duty in front of Palazzo Madama watched the whole thing from about 20 meters away. He later described the man as tall, with light hair and an elongated face, holding what looked like a bag of cosmetic samples. He remembered the car. He remembered the man. What he didn't do, and what he would regret for years, was write down the plate number. A second officer also noticed the encounter, but remembered less. Emanuela called Federica, told her about the offer, then went into her lesson. After class, she mentioned the job to 2 classmates. They walked with her to a bus stop in front of the Senate building and left her there around 7:20. She was still standing at the stop with another girl, someone who has never been identified. Her parents came home from Fiumicino around 8. Emanuela wasn't there. Her father went to the police that night. They told him to wait. She was probably with friends. She was declared missing the next morning, somewhere between that bus stop and wherever she was supposed to go next. Emanuela Orlandi disappeared. 2 officers had seen a man approach her. A sketch was drawn. The car was traced to a woman, but the investigator following that lead, a young intelligence agent named Giulio Gangi, was pulled off the case by his superiors before he could go further. 42 years later, nobody knows why. Within 3 days, the case stopped being about a missing girl and became about something else entirely. The family had published their phone number in the newspapers. On June 25th, a young man calling himself Pierluigi told them he had met a girl matching Emanuela's description in Campo de' Fiori, carrying a flute, wearing glasses, calling herself Barbarella, selling Avon products. 2 days later, a man named Mario called and said a girl named Barbara had visited his bar and told him she was a runaway who would return home for her sister's wedding. That last detail was the one that mattered. Emanuela's older sister, Natalina, was getting married in September. It was the kind of thing only someone very close to the family, or someone surveilling them, would know. Then the case shifted again. A caller claiming to represent associates of Mehmet Ali Arka, the Turkish gunman who had shot Pope John Paul II in St. Peter's Square 2 years earlier, demanded Arka's release in exchange for Emanuela. On July 3rd, Pope John Paul II publicly appealed for her return during his weekly address. The first time a pope had ever intervened in a missing persons case. The Vatican clearly believed she had been kidnapped, but the terrorism connection collapsed. No group ever took real responsibility. Arka himself changed his story repeatedly over the years, and none of his claims held up. Investigators concluded that the demand for his release was a misdirection, a false trail built to hide whatever had actually happened. And that makes everything harder. Because if the kidnapping had nothing to do with Arka, someone went to a lot of trouble to make it look like it did. And it means whoever approached Emanuela outside her music school with a bag of Avon samples and a green BMW was not improvising. He was following a plan that was already in motion. The investigation ran for 14 years and produced nothing. It was closed in 1997. A second inquiry opened in 2008 and closed in 2015. Theories kept multiplying, and each one changed what the man outside the music school might have been. The most enduring theory pointed to the Banda della Maliana, one of Rome's most dangerous criminal organizations in the 1970s and 80s. The gang had financial entanglements with the Vatican Bank, which was drowning in scandal at the time, laundered money, missing funds, and the death of Roberto Calvi, the chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, and a man so deeply tied to the Holy See that people called him God's banker. Calvi was found hanging beneath Blackfriars Bridge in London in 1982. It was ruled a suicide. Later, it was reclassified as murder. The theory was simple. The gang had moved money through Vatican channels and never been repaid. Emanuela was collateral, a 15-year-old taken to send a message. In 2011, former gang member Antonio Mancini said exactly that in public. He called the abduction one of several strikes the Banda della Maliana had carried out against the Vatican to recover what they were owed. In that version, the man with the Avon bag was hired muscle, someone told to go to a specific place at a specific time and bring a girl back. But there was a second theory, and it didn't come from the streets of Rome. It came from inside the Vatican. In 2012, Father Gabriele Amorth, the Vatican's chief exorcist, then in his late 80s, claimed that Emanuela had been taken by a member of the Vatican police to be used at parties involving sexual abuse. He said she was later killed. The Vatican dismissed it. 4 years later, journalist Tommaso Nelli published a book containing testimony from an anonymous woman who said she had been Emanuela's close friend. According to her, Emanuela confided sometime before the disappearance that she had been bothered by someone close to the Pope while walking in the Vatican gardens. The friend understood this to mean sexual advances. The timing is uncertain. Nelly's book says months before. The same witness, speaking in the 2022 Netflix documentary Vatican Girl, said 1 week before. Think about what that means if it's true. A 15-year-old girl living behind the walls of the Vatican tells a friend that someone powerful has been touching her. Days or weeks later, a stranger shows up outside her music school with a cover story about cosmetics and a fashion show. He is friendly. He is patient. He tells her to ask her mother. He says he will wait. And then she is gone. The mafia theory has more hard evidence behind it than anything else in this case. Enrico De Pedis, a senior figure in the Banda della Magliana, kept turning up in the investigation like a name that wouldn't wash off. In 2005, an anonymous caller told a television show that the secret to Emanuela's disappearance was inside de Pedis's tomb, which happened to be located in the Basilica of Sant'Apollinare, the same church that shared a wall with her music school. In 2008, de Pedis's former girlfriend, Sabrina Minardi, went further. She told prosecutors she had seen Emanuela in a dark BMW. She said de Pedis asked her to take the girl to a house in Torvaianica, where she was held for 10 days, drugged. Minardi said she eventually brought Emanuela to the Vatican petrol station, where someone dressed as a priest placed her into a car with Vatican plates. Minardi had a criminal record and a history of substance abuse, and parts of her story have been challenged, but some of her details were specific enough that investigators could not simply set them aside. In 2012, police opened de Pedis's tomb. His body was still preserved enough to confirm identity by fingerprint. They also found dozens of boxes of older bones in the crypt. Everyone was tested. None belonged to Emanuela. The financial connections between the gang and the Vatican Bank are not in dispute. Multiple inquiries have confirmed them. The collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, the death of Calvi, the billions of lire that cycled through Vatican accounts, all documented. Italian prosecutors have formally pursued the hypothesis that Emanuela was taken as part of this. But there's a problem with it that nobody has been able to answer. If you take a hostage to pressure someone, they have to know you took her and what you want. There has to be a conversation, a private demand. But the only documented communications in this case are the public calls demanding Arca's release, which investigators say were a diversion. No one has ever produced a private demand from the Banda della Magliana to the Vatican connected to the banking dispute. If the gang took Emanuela to get their money back, then the one thing that would make the plan actually work, the phone call, the letter, the message that says, "Pay up or she dies," has never been found. The theory that the Vatican itself was involved has almost nothing solid behind it. What it has is 40 years of the Vatican acting like an institution with something to hide. In July 1993, Cardinal Silvio Oddi told an interviewer that shortly after Emanuela vanished, he overheard 2 Vatican gendarmes saying they had seen her come back to the Vatican that same evening, in a luxury car. She stayed about 20 minutes. Then she left again. The driver, the gendarme said, had parked a short distance away, as if he didn't want to be seen. When a judge pressed Oddi on it, he said he couldn't remember which gendarmes had told him. The lead died there. Around 2016, journalist Emiliano Fittipaldi published a document he said had been leaked from the Vatican. It listed 14 years of expenses the Holy See had paid in Emanuela's name. Room and board at a girls' hostel in London run by the Scalabrinian missionaries, medical bills, travel costs, from 1983 all the way to 1997. The last line recorded a payment for general activities and transfer to the Vatican City state with relative final paperwork. The Vatican called the document false and ridiculous. Nobody has been able to prove it real or fake. In 2018, the family's lawyer received an anonymous letter with a photograph of a stone angel in the Vatican's Teutonic cemetery. It said, "If you want to find Emanuela, search where the angel looks." The following July, Vatican authorities opened 2 tombs in the cemetery. They were supposed to contain the remains of noblewomen buried in the 1800s. Both were empty. The bones that should have been inside were simply gone, moved at some unknown point by someone for reasons nobody could explain. Then, in late 2024, the Vatican's chief prosecutor, Alessandro Didi, confirmed what the institution had denied for decades. The Vatican holds a classified dossier on the Orlandi case. He would not say what was in it. And then, there is what the Pope said. In March 2013, a few days after his election, Pope Francis met the Orlandi family after a mass at the Church of St. Anna inside the Vatican. Pietro was there with his mother. Other people were around. According to Pietro, who has told this story the same way every time he has been asked. The Pope looked at them and said 4 words. Emanuela is in heaven. Pietro has said the words froze his blood. A pope doesn't tell a grieving family their daughter is dead unless he has reason to believe it. Pietro asked for a private meeting to hear more. The Vatican never granted one. Maybe Francis was offering comfort. Maybe it was the kind of thing any priest might say to a family that has been suffering for 30 years. But Pietro didn't hear comfort. He heard a head of state, a man who governs a sovereign nation, confirming that his sister was dead. And he has spent every year since trying to understand how Francis knew. If the Vatican theory is true, then the man who approached Emanuela with the Avon offer was not sent by criminals trying to collect a debt. He was sent by someone who needed a girl removed quietly, before she could tell anyone else what had been done to her behind the walls of the place she called home. But none of this has been proven. The sexual abuse allegation comes from one anonymous witness whose timing has shifted. The London document has never been verified. The Pope's words can be read as nothing more than pastoral kindness, and the Vatican's silence might not be a cover-up. It might just be an old institution that genuinely doesn't know what happened and has no idea how to say so. As of 2026, 3 separate investigations are running at the same time. The Vatican's own prosecutor, the Rome City prosecutor, and a parliamentary commission with the power to compel testimony and access classified records. Most recently, prosecutors opened a criminal inquiry into Laura Casagrande, a childhood friend who may have been the last person to talk to Emanuela before she disappeared. Her statements from 2023 contradict what she told police in 1983. Investigators believe she may know more than she has said. 42 years later, the case is not winding down. It is still opening up. The mafia theory has evidence, but no proven mechanism. The Vatican theory has a pattern of behavior, but no direct proof. The possibility that both are partially true. That someone inside the church asked someone outside it to make a problem go away has never been ruled out. Neither has the quieter possibility that the truth is simpler than any of the grand theories, and that it starts and ends with what a 15-year-old girl tried to tell a friend in the weeks before she was taken. All of it begins in the same place. A hot Wednesday afternoon. A green BMW near the Italian Senate. A man with a cosmetics bag and a story about a fashion show, talking to a girl who had no reason to be afraid of him. A traffic officer saw it happen from 20 meters away. He remembered everything: the man's face, the hair, the car, but he never wrote down the plate number. He said later it was the thing he regretted most. Emanuela Orlandi has been missing for more than 40 years. 3 investigations are open. The Vatican holds a classified file. A pope has told her family she is dead, but the man outside the music school has never been found.